Not sure what glitter to use? It's different for acrylic versus gel, and we're going to show you why. So when you're mixing your acrylic, you want to use about a 3-to-1 ratio. So 3 parts of your acrylic to 1 part of glitter, and we're going to work with Speed Clear today. Now you can use either a little scoop, and you can measure out 3 scoops, so 1, 2, 3. But if you're filling up a whole jar with your glitter mix, it's going to take a little bit of time to do that. So what you can do instead is fill up your container up to the bottom ridge with your Speed Clear, and that's going to give you the 3 parts of acrylic that you need to mix. And then we're going to add 1 part of the glitter, and we're going to bring that almost all the way to the top. So I kind of use that last ridge of the jar, the last threads of the jar, as my guide. And that's going to be our 1 part of glitter. Now the 3-to-1 ratio is going to give you an approximate amount. It's going to be a good consistency, but you can adjust to your liking. But let's take a look and see how this mixes up. You're going to just give that a really good shake. So if we pick up a pearl and set that onto the nail, you're going to see that we've got a good solid coverage of our color. It's going to be a little bit opaque, and it's going to just give you that really good coverage. Now if you want a little less glitter, you're definitely welcome to add a little less glitter. If you don't want it quite so heavy, you can adjust your ratio, but at least 3-to-1 is going to give you that really good coverage. Now, since gel is not something that we can really measure out, you kind of have to eyeball it. And it's going to depend on whether you use a thicker gel like our Clear Sculptor. This is a little bit of a thicker product. So you can see it's not quite so self-leveling. Whereas with the Flex gel, it's a little bit of a thinner product, and it's going to be a little bit more self-leveling. So if you're adding glitter into a thicker gel, so that Clear Sculptor, it's going to create a thicker consistency right off the bat. Whereas if you're mixing your glitter into your Flex gel, it's not going to create as thick of a consistency right off the bat. So let me show you. Now again, with the acrylic, we had a 3-to-1 ratio. With our gel, we don't necessarily have that same ratio, but what we're going to do is just sprinkle enough of that glitter on top of our gel. We're going to do the Clear Sculptor, and then we're also going to do the Flex. So you're going to be able to see that both of these are going to be able to create a good consistency. So we're going to just mix that all together. And what you want to happen is you want a good consistency where it's not going to feel too thick, but it's still going to self-level a little bit. So again, you can see with our Clear Sculptor, it's looking a lot thicker, whereas with the Flex, it's a lot thinner. But what you want to happen with both of these gels is if you take a look at them from the side, I'm going to scoop these together. What you want to happen is you want that gel to just soften a little bit. You don't want it looking chunky, you don't want it looking textured, you want it to just look soft. Let's talk about what happens if you create too thick of a mixture. Let's go back to our acrylic. If you take only 1 scoop of acrylic, but you use maybe 2 scoops of the glitter, that's going to be way too much glitter and not enough acrylic to hold up and have a good consistency. So if we were to mix that together and try to pick this up and set it onto our nail, all we're going to have is glitter. So when this goes onto the nail, it may flow, it may run, but it's not going to have the same consistency. It's not going to have enough acrylic to actually hold that product together. So all you're really getting is glitter. You're not going to have any structure within that nail. So that's why you want to make sure that you're adding enough of the actual acrylic to build up the structure and the consistency of the nail. And even once this nail were to set, you're still probably going to be able to move around some of that product because that little bit of acrylic that's in there is not enough product, enough acrylic to actually hold on to that glitter. So by not mixing enough acrylic powder into your mixture, you're not going to get an actual acrylic application. You're going to have just more chunky pieces of glitter on that nail and not enough actual structure to that nail. Same kind of thing with your gel. If you were to add too much of your glitter to your gel, let's just really over exaggerate this. So if I were to add a lot of glitter and not enough gel, when we mix that together, you can already see it's not really combining very well. It's almost sticking to my spatula, you're not going to get that smooth self-leveling flow that you do when you have the proper consistency. So as you're mixing, you want to make sure that you are mixing to the right consistency, one that is going to self-level a little bit, one that's going to flow a little bit, and it's going to be much easier to apply. So if I were to take that really thick mixture and set that onto the nail, I'm not going to be able to let that product flow, and it's actually not even going to adhere very well to that nail. So having too much glitter in your gel is going to be a challenge, whereas if we have that proper consistency and our glitter, you're going to be able to apply that on the nail, still float over your product just like you would any other application, and that product is going to flow and it's going to move nice and smoothly. So the difference between having the proper amount of glitter in your mixture versus too much makes all the difference when you're actually applying that onto the nail. All right, now one other difference when you're working with acrylic versus when you're working with the gel. With acrylic, we could take our same mixture, we could use this, and we could actually build the whole entire nail out of our glitter mixture. Now, one difference when you're working with acrylic versus when you're working with gel, acrylic is going to set up on its own, so we don't really have to worry about it curing. Now, when you're working with the gel, you do have to make sure that you have the proper consistency and the proper coloring to your glitter mixture so that the light can actually cure all the way through that gel. Now, some glitters, like this one that we're mixing here, are very bold. They're actually a silver glitter with a colored coating. Now, if you tried to create a whole entire nail built out of this glitter mixture, this can actually be too dense of a glitter to allow the light to cure all the way through. So something like this one, we would actually want to take and mix in an iridescent color. So something like this that's going to allow the light to get through. So again, if we were to take, let's say, our clear sculptor, we would want to add in, we'll start with our base color that we want. So this is the color that we want the majority of. But then to make sure that this color is going to completely cure all the way through, I'm going to add in a little bit of crushed pearl. So the crushed pearl is going to almost break up that color a little bit. It's not going to change the color combination, or it's not going to change the color that we're creating. It's just going to add, a little bit more sparkle to it first of all, but it's also going to add a little bit of iridescence so that that light can actually cure all the way through. So this way we're not going to worry about our product curing. By having just that little bit of extra iridescence in there, it's going to allow the light to cure all the way through. So other than just a straight iridescent color, there are other glitters that you could add into your mixture here that are also going to let the light through. So the difference being is, I was saying earlier, the dense glitter here is a silver glitter with a colored coating, whereas the other lighter glitters are actually just solid color all the way through. But these ones will allow the light to penetrate and get through and actually cure. So you could mix a little bit of these in instead of using just that straight iridescent. So this is also going to break up that glitter and allow the light to cure all the way through. So just watch your glitter mixtures so that you know that they are going to fully cure all the way. Now again, this is not something that you have to worry about when you're working with acrylic, because acrylic is going to just dry on its own, so you don't have to worry about mixing in any of that iridescent if you don't want to, but you definitely can for just a little added sparkle. If you've been having challenges with your glitter mixtures, hopefully now you'll get the ratios just right.